who are connected with this program. I'm grateful to Randhir, who has been a student of Patna College, for permitting me to speak first. I would not have requested him to permit me to speak first had I not had some urgent problems to attend to, which came up at the last moment. So, uh, for me, Professor Karan was not only a colleague in Patna University, he was like elder brother, and probably I'm the only person in this group, at least in the group of panelists, who has seen his early days at a school. He belonged to a place in old Darbhanga district, Madhubani, and I also belong to the same district. And it so happened that his father came to my native place, which falls now under Samastipur district. Earlier it was part of the Roga district, to work for Khadi Bhandar. That was the reason why he came from 60 kilometers away at Madhubani to a place like Dalsing Sarai, which is now SFWI headquarters. But fortunately, this place, Dalsing Sarai, had a good school, which was then known as Chaudhary High English School. Professor Karan was a student of that school. I too was a student of that school. But the most important point is this, that late Professor Karan was lucky to have a teacher, fortunate to have a teacher who was not Gandhian in views, but Gandhian in action. I'm yet to see anyone in this long life of more than 75 years who could match this teacher. He was Abhayanath Thakurji, who had his schooling and earlier bringing up in the same area. And I don't know how he came to be a Gandhian, but when Karanji and me joined school, he was there as a teacher. We often hear that Gandhi used to say, Mahatma Gandhi used to say, my life is my message. This can be said of my late teacher also. Karanji's late teacher also. His life was a message. He was a good teacher and he practiced Gandhism. I can only give you some examples. In those days, in early 50s, in a society which is caste-ridden, particularly villages where upper caste, Brahmins or certain other communities similar to that Maithil Brahmins live, it was very difficult to even think of cremating someone who is found dead near a pond whose caste you don't know. But it was under the impact of this great teacher, Karanji, and persons like me would go take up the dead body and cremate it. Today, it is not very difficult to do all this, but in those days, more than 70 years back, it was really revolutionary. I have participated along with him and others in activities which was Gandhian in spirit, cleaning, Swachhta and many others. And the most important thing would be to say that we were given the opportunity. I'm talking of Karanji and persons like me to participate directly in a democratic functioning of an institution. I don't say that my school was the only school which was doing such activities then. I can't claim that, but I remember that we have a students' parliament. We were students were elected, council of ministers, established, prime minister was there, and it's a full functioning democracy at the school level, which we saw working. I remember having participated in that. So this was the background. If you relate some of the actions of late Professor Karanji, later activities at social and political level, you can see the background, the impact of this background. For the moment, I am not discussing his academic contributions. I am not least qualified to speak on that subject. I am from a different discipline, economics, and there are people like Professor Anand Kumarji, Raghunandan and many others who would be more qualified to speak on his academic contributions. But his contributions to society at large, I have seen with my own eyes, and I participated in some of these activities. Currently, was a man who knew grassroots level things, coming from a middle class family from Mithila region of Bihar, knowing, having a rich culture and heritage, working at grassroots level, interacting with freedom fighters when he was with his father in a Khadi Bandar where he used to live, would have its natural impact on the making of his personality. And we see this all his life. Later on, when I came to Bata College, he came earlier, I came to Bata College, I had the opportunity of being his colleague initially at one of the colleges where I also worked for 4 years. I remember when he decided to move to IIT Kanpur, he handed over the charge of National Service Scheme to me. It was a quite different thing that prior to his coming to National Service Scheme, knowing service scheme, I was at Wardha Seva Gaon Ashram in the Gandhi Centenariya for full 1 month. And at that time, this National Service Scheme idea was mooted. But Karanji was first to join NSS in the college, and he worked as a program officer, and he was an ideal program officer who not only could attract students, collect students under his banner, but not only motivate the students, but he led it. Later on, when you see that he was with the JP movement, in the JP movement, you saw many of these traits coming to fruition in his later days. So when he left for IIT, Humanities Department, he handed over the charge to me. Later on, he came back, and I remember working during 1975 great floods, which flooded entire Patna except a few upper regions in the old city. So Karanji had a huge impact on the not only working of organizations such as National Student Services Scheme for students, he had a great impact on students, inspiring students, motivating them, inspiring them, leading them, and getting them join such social movements with wide social implications for democracy and humanity, if I could use such words. Uh, he came back again to Patna, and later on he went to Nehu, and I had the opportunity of visiting him in Shillong, and I could know that. And as I told you, Professor Anand Kumarji and Raghunandan and many others in this distinguished panel would be better placed to speak on his contribution. He worked on those issues which were very close to him at that point of time. The tribal studies in the Northeast uh, and from a very close quarter. Whenever he used to visit Patna, uh, uh, we had the advantage of his insights, academic insights, and his knowledge of uh, which he acquired while remaining in Nehu, Shillong, and working on the issues which were very close to that place, the tribal issues and many other issues. Karanji later on also took over as director at Chennai Institute. I remember it was sometime in April 91 and continued for 3 years. But prior to that, his contributions in the JP movement from the Patna point of view was really very significant. Professor Anand Kumarji participated in that movement. He was in Patna. He would be in a better position to tell you all that. But I think for Patna, he was a constant keeper of all those social activists, political activists, and I see the root of all this in his upbringing at Khadi Bandar in Dal Singh Rai, maybe in his family earlier, and his education at his secondary school, Satadhari High School, English school, of which I was also a student, and above all, the influence of late Amarnath Thakurji. Uh, Much later, he, when he superannuated and decided to live in Patna, he was easily available to us. For me, I had the privilege of being his younger brother. So whenever I needed, I remember the day when emergency, these days we talk so much of democracy and erosion of democracy, and rightly so. Well, yesterday in some of the programs with some persons, democratic minded persons, socially spirited and socialist persons, I had to participate in an online webinar, and this was discussed that this uh, socialist and democratic movement, for which most of us are, I presume, are committed to, he continued. He had a long, very association, and he was a constant keeper for all of us. Uh, when he superannuated, as I told you, he took over from me uh, the Association for Study in Action, which was initially set up and even now being guided by very senior civil servant, Dasji, who is from eastern part of Uttar Pradesh, but he lives in Patna, a person who has left liberal uh, ideas about not only society, but he practiced it. He became the president. So there also we had the the benefit of his leadership. As a personal level, he was always a friend and philosopher and a guide. I remember on 25th June 1975, at his with his letter, I met Ramasred Raiji, who was then director ICSSR, and I was then working in Delhi School of Economics under Prashant, not Prabhat, but Nayak for some research work. And he was so kind that he gave me that letter. It's a different thing that Ramasra Raiji belongs to the same area from which I come from and maybe distantly related in certain sense. But it was Karanji who told me, and the very day I was sitting in ICSR, this IIT Hospital, 25th June, I remember. And in the evening, I took the train from Patna, and in the night, emergency was imposed on this country. So this is just by coincidence, I said, and it was under his inspiration and that young students, teachers, and maybe others were inspired to join the movement. Today, when this country is at a turning point, we are facing problems similar to the ones which once led to JP movement. I would feel, I would feel the absence of persons like him who could guide young men and women and inspire us to join or a kind of awareness, if not a movement. In fact, movement is needed to work from some of those ideals for which once Karanji worked for, Anandji worked from the front, he led from the front these people. I think his absence will be felt more. For me, his passing away is a loss, not only to me, a person like me, but a loss to a great legacy of democratic movements and academic world. He was a fine academician, gentlest of men, noblest of men, and a person who always treated even those not only downtrodden, but the lowest of the lowest with dignity. Today, I salute him, his memory, and pay my tributes to this great soul and wish that it's a time to celebrate his life and legacy and go to the young students, some of those who might not have seen him even, and have the full benefit of his contributions in academic and social field. With these words, I pay my respectful homage to his sacred memory. I'm grateful to Randhir and all those who have organized this webinar and assure you that but for my some pressing engagements which could not be avoided, I'm always prepared to work for some of those ideals for which Karanji, Karan, my elder brother, lived and worked for. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, Professor Nawal Chaudhary, as always, very inspiring. Now I request Professor Amit Kumar Sharma, who is a student of Professor Anand, late Anand, to share his thought.
I think Professor Anand Kumar should speak first.
आप बोलेंगे तो अच्छा रहेगा. अभी एक क्लास फेलो बोले, उसके बाद एक स्टूडेंट बोलेंगे, फिर हम लोग तो हैं ही हैं. प्लीज स्पीक, प्लीज गो अहेड.
थैंक यू आनंद भाई। ज्यादातर लोग हिंदी वाले हैं या अंग्रेजी वाले हैं?
अंतर्राष्ट्रीय लोग भी हैं।
जी। Then I have only few words to share about Professor Karna. I will try to locate Karna as a sociologist in the overall history of Indian sociology. We all know that there were two rival schools of sociology in India. The Calcutta school, led by Vinay Kumar Sarkar, and ably assisted by people like B.N. Seal, K.C. Chattopadhyay, later on Nirmal Kumar Bose, Radha Kamal Mukherjee, D.P. Mukherjee. And there was a rival school. That school is known as the Bombay School of Sociology, founded by Clifford Geertz and nurtured by G.S. Ghuriye and his students. When we write the history of Indian sociology, we do mention the Bombay School and the Calcutta School. And then as children of these two rival schools, two other schools are mentioned. Delhi School, which is founded by M.N. Srinivas, a student of G.S. Ghuriye and A.R.H.D. Brown, and Lucknow School, which was founded by Radha Kamal Mukherjee, ably assisted by D.P. Mukherjee, Baljit Singh, and many others. Now, people usually do not refer to the other sibling or the marginalized sibling of Calcutta School, that is the Patna School of Sociology. Now, these days it is unfashionable to talk about it, but I will try to locate M.N. Karna in the tradition of Calcutta School, and I will just try to link him with certain persons and their sociologies. Number one, the major difference between Patna School of Sociology and Lucknow School of Sociology was that at Lucknow, they were more occupied with the meta theories of civilization. Whether it was Radha Kamal Mukherjee or D.P. Mukherjee or D.N. Majumdar or A.K. Saran or early T.N. Madan and their students Unithan, Indradev, Yogendra Singh. They were more concerned with the meta theory of civilizations, and they were talking about civilizations and change. But what made them different from Delhi School of Sociology, founded by M.N. Srinivas, was the emphasis on culture in contrast to social structure. All those who have been associated with Calcutta and Lucknow School were writing not only about civilization and tradition and change, but they were also engaged with the study of Indian culture. And there was a debate how to study Indian culture. In that context, Patna University or the Patna School of Sociology, because there are two major institutions at Patna, rather three, which are integral part of that school. One is Patna University, the other is ANC Institute, and the third is Sinha Library, Patna. But there is a fourth, which is equally important, that is Khudabaksh Khan Library. And we must remember that Khudabaksh Khan Library, Patna, is the second most important library after the Library of Vatican Pope's Library. Therefore, when you contrast Lucknow University's library, or when you contrast Calcutta University, which had, two very important subsidiaries or complementary sources, Asiatic Society of Bengal on the one hand and Calcutta Central Library, the theoretical focus or the theoretical excursus is much more wider at Patna and Calcutta than Bombay and Delhi. Because at Patna University, from the time of Narmadeshwar Prasad until people like Eminent, there was an attempt to incorporate non-English speaking and writing sociologists. Therefore, when JNU was teaching 4 sociological thinkers, now we are teaching only 3, Marx, Weber, Durkheim. Earlier, Pareto was also being taught. And at Delhi school, 3 thinkers were being taught, Marx, Weber, and Durkheim. Patna University was teaching 16 sociologists as social thinkers. And they came from different European linguistic families. I think M.N. Karna was the last in academic sense who represented that classical tradition, which began with B.K. Sarkar and ended with A.K. Saran at Lucknow and M.N. Karan at Patna. And therefore, when we are trying to evaluate M.N. Karna, we should not see only his publications at Nehu. We should also try to understand that he was in 1970s only teacher in India who was not having one office. That is, he was not only sitting as a reader of sociology at BN College, Patna, but he had a separate office called Indian Social Institutions, and he was director of that institute. That contribution has been very, very seminal, and it influenced not only his students like me, but also others like Ken Pathak of Sharma Institute, who was also part of Yojana Bhavan or Planning Commission, and many others. Therefore, Karan's career as a sociologist should be compartmentalized or separated in 3 ways. As sociologist of peasant society, where he by and large followed Andre Bete, and now I would like to underline the relationship between Andre Bete, Dipankar Gupta, P.N. Mukherjee, and M.N. Karan. Most people do not know that the schooling of Andre Bete and Dipankar Gupta was in St. Michael School, Patna. Therefore, they were not a typical Bengali the way they were conceived in Delhi. Now, this lineage fertilized at 2 places. One was in Sinha Institute, Patna, when Professor Sachidanand was the director, and the second was the 2 libraries I mentioned, Khudabaksh Khan Library and Sinha Library, Patna. These 2 libraries made Andre Bete, Dipankar Gupta, P.N. Mukherjee, Sachidanand, Ziauddin Ahmad, Narmadeshwar Prasad, S.M. Raj, and M.N. Karan, a much more encyclopedic sociologist, which may not be reflected in their writing, but in their interaction during the classroom and in their interaction with the friends. And also when he was writing NCERT textbook in early years of 21st century, I was also writing another volume, and Nagla was also writing. We had very fruitful discussion, and we discussed how fragmented Indian sociology has been theoretically. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Amit Kumar Sharma. I request Professor Biswajit Ghosh from Burdwan University, who is also very close associate of late Professor Anand, to share his reflections. Your audio is not connected, sir. Okay. As he is taking some time, I request Dr. Suresh Khairnar ji. सुरेश खैरनार जी काफी करीब रहे हैं एमएन कर्ण जी के। जी
जी नमस्कार। सबसे पहले आनंद जी को देखकर मुझे थोड़ी चिंता हो रही है, काफी थके हारे लग रहे हैं मुझे। और
अभी
में
2 दिन की कार्यशाला बेरोजगारी के सवाल पर, लेकिन सब ठीक है। आपको देख के अच्छा लग रहा है।
गौतम ने सही कहा, ये जो मेरे पहले के 2 पूर्व वक्ता थे, उनकी तुलना में मेरा उनसे उस ढंग से कोई एकेडमिक ताल्लुक नहीं था, लेकिन एक जयप्रकाश नारायण के आंदोलन के एक साथी के नाते और मुख्य रूप से संघर्ष वाहिनी, गंगा मुक्ति आंदोलन, भागलपुर दंगा, और मैं NAPM का फर्स्ट टीम का एक संयोजक होने के नाते पूरा पूर्व भारत उसमें नॉर्थ ईस्ट में आता है। जब वो शिलोंग में थे, नॉर्थ ईस्ट हिल यूनिवर्सिटी में, तो उन्होंने मुझे विकास की अवधारणा इस विषय के ऊपर 1 हफ्ते के लिए अपने सोशियोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट में पहली बार जिंदगी में आती थी प्रोफेसर की भूमिका में मुझे बुलाया था। वैसे तो यूनिवर्सिटी गेस्ट हाउस एंटाइटल था, लेकिन उन्होंने कहा कि मेरे घर में मैं अकेला रह रहा हूँ, तो आप मेरे साथ ठहरेंगे तो हमको गपशप करने में और ज़्यादा समय मिलेगा। तो उस हिसाब से मैं 8 दिन उनके साथ में शिलोंग के कैंपस में था, और NAPM के उत्तर पूर्व के काम के कारण मैंने उनसे खासी, गारो, बोडो, ये जो विभिन्न आंदोलन चल रहे थे अगल बगल में, उनके कॉन्टैक्ट्स उनके थोड़े बहुत थे, उन लोगों से भी मिलने में मुझे उनकी बहुत सहायता हुई। वो सवालों को समझने में बहुत बड़ी सहायता हुई, क्योंकि मैं जिंदगी में पहली बार किसी भारत के ही प्रदेश में टीचिंग स्टाफ में बैठा था मैं टी ब्रेक में, तो एक खासी प्रोफेसर ने मेरे को बोला कि आप कहाँ से है? मैंने कहा मैं कलकत्ता से हूँ। ओह, यू आर कमिंग फ्रॉम इंडिया। ये मुझे यू आर कमिंग फ्रॉम इंडिया डाइजेस्ट करने के लिए थोड़ा समय लगा। कश्मीर उसके बाद की बात है, लेकिन ये मैं नॉर्थ ईस्ट की बात कर रहा हूँ, वो भी शिलोंग की, जो गुवाहाटी से मेरे ख्याल से 100 किलोमीटर भी दूर नहीं है। तो ये जो एलिनेशन की भावना थी हमारे देश के कुछ लोगों के दिलों में है। डॉक्टर कर्ण से इस विषय के बारे में हमने, क्योंकि डॉक्टर कर्ण जयप्रकाश नारायण के प्रभाव में थे, डॉक्टर कर्ण नॉर्थ ईस्ट में जेपी ने विशेष रूप से भेजे हुए जो बेतिया के बलिया के जो साथी थे, हमारे संदीप पांडे के मामा, तो उनके कारण उत्तर पूर्व के समस्याओं के बारे में उन्होंने जो रोशनी डाली, वो मेरे लिए एक तरह से आई ओपनिंग जैसी बात है। नागा समस्या से लेके, बोडो से लेके, खासी, गारो, ये सब, और उस ढंग से उनके साथ में इंटरेक्शन करने का मौका भी उनके कारण मिला है। फिर मेरे ख्याल से वो उसके बाद में एएनसी इंस्टीट्यूट के डायरेक्टर भी शायद नियुक्त हुए थे, या पहले क्रम में भूल रहा हूं, लेकिन उसमें वो हमारे जो आंदोलन के पटना के सत्याग्रह या धरने के कार्यक्रमों में अपने डायरेक्टर के क्वार्टर से दोनों पति पत्नी खाना बनाकर रोटी सब्जी या जो भी कुछ संभव होता था अपने हाथ से लेके आते थे। और इस ढंग से उनका ये जो सरोकार मैंने देखा जन आंदोलनों के प्रति, अपने बगल में जो चल रहे इन सब गतिविधियों के प्रति, बहुत कम एकेडमिशियंस को मैं देखता हूं। सामने बैठे हुए कुछ अपवाद है, डॉक्टर आनंद तो महा अपवाद है, लेकिन बहुत सारे लोग, मैंने आपातकाल के दौर में उनकी परीक्षा एक तरह से लिटमस पेपर जैसी पता चली कि वो कैसे एकेडमिशियन थे। मैं किसी का नाम लेना चाहता, लेकिन डॉक्टर कर्ण उस समय मुझे बिल्कुल साफ साफ जनतंत्र को लेकर, अभिव्यक्ति आजादी की लेकर, और मुख्य रूप से जयप्रकाश आंदोलन को लेकर उनके मन में कोई भी शक शुबा नहीं थी। वो बिल्कुल क्लियरली साफ साफ इस आंदोलन के पक्ष में थे, और उनसे जो जो संभव हुआ वो उन्होंने उसमें मदद की, और हमारे जैसे साथियों को भी वो अपने यहाँ ठहराने से लेके बहुत मदद करते थे। और लालू प्रसाद यादव जी की सरकार उस समय चल रही थी, और मेरा बिहार में 70 के दशक से आना जाना है। तो अच्युतराव पटवर्धन या पटवर्धन फैमिली से मैं अक्सर, और उनके एक भाई आईसीएस थे जो पुणे में आईसीएस कॉलोनी में रहते थे, बालू पटवर्धन नाम के, वो मुझे अक्सर कहते थे कि अरे तुम्हारे जयप्रकाश के बिहार में अभी तक जमीन का रिकॉर्ड तक नहीं हुआ है। जयप्रकाश मुझे बार बार बोलते थे कि अरे आप आके हमको रिकॉर्ड बना दो, वगैरह वगैरह, क्या क्या बात है। ये मेरे लिए हैरानी की बात थी। और कर्ण साहब से जब मैं वेरीफाई करता था तो उन्होंने कहा था कि पटवर्धन जी सही बोल रहे हैं। तो 70 के दशक के बिहार में, पटना में उतरने के बाद में किसी भी रिक्शा वाले को अगर मैं पूछता था कल को चलना है, कितना लोगे, तो बेचारा बुजुर्ग माए बाप सरकार बोल के हाथ जोड़कर वो कुछ भी न बोलते हुए हमको रिक्शा में बैठा लेता था, और हम जो भी 18 रुपया उस समय देते थे वो लेकर और प्रणाम करके वापस जाता था। लेकिन उसी रिक्शा के तबके को मैंने जेपी आंदोलन के बाद में, और मुख्य रूप से लालू प्रसाद यादव के मुख्यमंत्री बनने के बाद से, मैंने एक सिग्निफिकेंट फर्क देखा। वो रिक्शा वाला पटना रेलवे स्टेशन पे उतरने के बाद में मोलतोल करने लगा। वो रिक्शा वाला कहता था कि साहब 5 रुपया लगेगा, 10 रुपये, जो भी कुछ वहां के वाजिब उस समय के रेट थे, और वो अगर नहीं दिया, 1-2 रुपया कम दिया, तो वो बाकायदा इज्जत करता था और वो पैसे वसूल करता था। ये मैं एक मीटर मानता हूँ एक सोशल एक्टिविस्ट के नाते, कि बिहार के दबे कुचले, बिहार के इस ढंग से समाज के जो वर्ग है, जिनकी एक तरह से आत्मविश्वास सदियों से, कई कारणों से, जो महात्मा ज्योतिबा फुले ने 200 साल पहले, बाद में डॉक्टर अंबेडकर ने महाराष्ट्र में जद्दोजहद करके बड़ी मुश्किल से, जिसको आत्मविश्वास या स्वाभिमान बोल सकते हैं, वो बिहार में मैंने 70 के दशक में नहीं के बराबर देखा था। लेकिन लालू प्रसाद यादव के मुख्यमंत्री बनने के बाद, ये मेरा हाइपोथेसिस है जो मैंने कर्ण साहब को सुनाया। मैंने कहा आप सोशल साइंटिस्ट हैं, आप मेरे को करेक्ट कर सकते हैं कि महाराष्ट्र में 100-200 सालों के पश्चात दबे कुचले समाजों को आत्मविश्वास, कॉन्फिडेंस आने के लिए इतना समय लगा, लेकिन बिहार में 20 से 25 साल के भीतर, और मुख्य रूप से लालू प्रसाद यादव के मुख्यमंत्री बनने के बाद, उनके जो तरीके थे जनसभाओं को संबोधित करने के, अपने खुद के पाँव के अंगूठे को ऊपर उठा के दिखाना और कहना, देखो भाइयों, भैंस चराने जाता था बचपन में, मेरे पाँव पे भैंस ने पैर रख दिया और ये अंगूठा देखो क्या हो गया। मैं अपने हिसाब से कर्ण साहब को बोला कि ये लाखों लोगों की सभा में बैठे हुए जो भी इस ढंग के चारवाहे या जो उस ढंग के क्लास के लोग होंगे, उनको लगता होगा कि अरे हमारे जैसा कोई आदमी इस ढंग से आज हमारे प्रदेश का राजा बना है, ये लोगों के आत्मविश्वास बढ़ाने के लिए लालू प्रसाद यादव का क्या कैलकुलेशन था वो जाने, लेकिन मैंने कहा कि 50 साल के बाद में बिहार के या नॉर्थ इंडिया के या देश के सोशल साइंटिस्टों को शायद ये क्रेडिट देना पड़ेगा कि बिहार के इस ढंग से पिछड़े वर्गों को जो कॉन्फिडेंस मिला, जिसमें लालू प्रसाद यादव का हिमालय जैसा शहर है, जो कि मुझे लालू प्रसाद यादव से कोई लेना देना नहीं, मैं लालू प्रसाद यादव का भक्ति भी नहीं हूँ। कर्ण साहब ने बोला भी कि आपकी ये बात लालू जी सुनेंगे तो बहुत अच्छा लगेगा, मेरा उनसे संपर्क है, चारवाह विद्यालय से लेकर पहलवान और दुनिया भर की स्कीमों को मैं भी एक जिम्मेदार हूँ, चाहो तो मैं आपके उनकी मुलाकात करवाना चाहता हूँ। मैंने कहा बिल्कुल नहीं, मैं मुझे कोई उसमें रुचि नहीं। लेकिन कर्ण साहब ने मुझे कहा कि आप एकमात्र जयप्रकाश आंदोलन के साथी दिख रहे जो लालू प्रसाद यादव के इस ढंग के योगदान को आप मान्य कर रहे या बोल रहे हो। तो मैंने कहा मैं दुख से कहता हूं कि मेरे बिहार के जो भी साथी है वो भले जयप्रकाश लोहिया गांधी नाम ले रहे होंगे, लेकिन वो अभी तक डी कास्ट डी क्लास नहीं हुए हैं, और इसीलिए वो लल्लू ललवा क्या क्या इस ढंग से बोलते मैंने देखा है। तो लालू प्रसाद यादव के बारे में का मेरा जो कुछ असेसमेंट था, उसको कर्ण साहब ने एक तरह से जिस ढंग से मान्यता दी, मुझे एक कार्यकर्ता के नाते, एक सोशल एक्टिविस्ट के नाते कर्ण साहब का ये जो बड़प्पन है, अभी उनके सहपाठी सबसे पहले बोलने वालों से पता चला कि वो कभी उन्होंने अपनी जाति का उल्लेख नहीं किया, जैसे मैंने भी कभी नहीं किया, और हमने आज तक कई मेरे 50 साल पुराने मित्रों की भी मुझे जात नहीं मालूम है। तो कर्ण नाम से तो कुछ भी नहीं पता चलता, और खैरनार नाम से भी कोई खोजते बैठेगा। तो इस ढंग से हमने दोनों एक दूसरे की कभी भी जाति संप्रदाय की बात की नहीं, लेकिन हम बहुत करीबी दोस्त थे। और मुझे खुशी है मैं राष्ट्र सेवा दल का अखिल भारतीय अध्यक्ष बनने के बाद में उनको बिहार प्रदेश राष्ट्र सेवा दल का अध्यक्ष बनाया। वो कहे कि मेरी तबीयत थोड़ी ठीक नहीं है, तो मैंने कहा आपकी मदद के लिए मैं कार्यकारी अध्यक्ष का भी एक पद नियुक्त करता हूं, और भागलपुर के हमारे साथी उदय जी को मैंने कार्यकारी अध्यक्ष बनाया, और कर्ण साहब को कहा कि आपका नाम मुझे राष्ट्र सेवा दल के साथ चाहिए, इसलिए बिहार राष्ट्र सेवा दल के अध्यक्ष बनाने में मेरे राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्षता के काल में मुझे कामयाबी मिली। और उस ढंग से कर्ण साहब और भी हमारे नजदीक आए। चंपारण यात्रा जब राष्ट्र सेवा दल ने निकाली थी 100 साल के उपलक्ष्य में, उसमें भी समापन कार्यक्रम में हम पटना से दोनों उनके गाड़ी में साथ में गए थे, और वही शायद मेरी अंतिम मुलाकात है। उसके बाद में यही पता चलता रहा कि उनका स्मरण थोड़ा कमजोर होते जा रहा है, तबीयत थोड़ी ठीक नहीं है। बेटी के पास, दामाद बेटी दोनों पटना एम्स में डॉक्टर होने के कारण आजकल वो वहीं पर रहते हैं। और अंत में मुझे 8 अप्रैल, जो कोइंसिडेंटली उनका जन्म दिवस भी है, और 8 ही अप्रैल के दिन वो हम सबको छोड़कर चले गए। अंतिम समय उनका थोड़ा पीड़ादायक था, इसलिए गए, इसका दुख तो है, लेकिन उनको मुक्ति मिली, इसका मुझे डॉक्टर के नाते एहसास भी है। इसलिए मैं उनकी स्मृति को विनम्र अभिवादन करके रुकता हूँ। बिहार के और मुख्य रूप से उत्तर भारत के परिप्रेक्ष्य में ऐसे समाज विज्ञानी डॉक्टर आनंद के बाद में मुझे दूसरे मिले हैं, मैं उनको विनम्र अभिवादन करता हूँ।
अपने बखूबी तरीके से अमेनकन साहब जो सामाजिक राजनीतिक सहभागिता रही है सामाजिक आंदोलन को लेके, उनके बारे में बताया। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। Now I request Professor Biswajit Ghosh to. Sir, I think your audio is not connected. If you can connect from mobile phone. Now I request Professor Raghunandan Sharma, who is a former professor at Patna University,
former principal Patna College.
जी सर अपने आप को अनम्यूट कीजिए.
Sure. Namaskar, everybody,
जी.
and thanks to Randhir for giving this opportunity. Patna University and the Department of Sociology particularly has a huge list of alumni who contributed in the field of this profession of sociology in different capacity in the entire country. But the two most brightest star I can identify were one Professor P.N. Mukherjee and the other Professor Eminent Karna, who brought many laurels for their alma mater. We feel proud to have alumnus like them, and we remember fondly in their professional capacity as well as in their personal capacity. I'm unfortunate not to be his direct student because when I joined Patna University as a student, by that time he had left for Kanpur. So I had no opportunity to be his student, but there was a unique opportunity to be associated with him personally. His wife became my classmate in Patna College, and the fact behind her being the student of Patna College shows the mental determination of Professor Eminent Karna. His wife came from very rural background and she was very hesitant to be a student of a boys' college. She was always insisting to be the student of either Magad Mahila or women's college, but Professor Eminent Karna encouraged her to break this gender hesitation and inhibitions and forced, rather prevailed over her, convinced her to be a student of Patna College, and thus she became my classmate and a personal relationship ensued thus herewith. In his professional category, I think he was most active sociologist from Bihar to be the part of Indian Sociological Society, and our professional relation started from here. In almost every annual conference of the Indian Sociological Society, we two, myself and Eminent Karna, used to be in the sociological conferences anywhere in the country. I remember still vividly, it was in 1984 or 85, the Surat conference, where myself and Professor Eminent Karna were reporters of two panels. Then there was no RC. It was only panels. So we were working as reporters, and thereafter in every sociological conference we used to meet, and very soon he organized very successfully a conference of the Indian Sociological Society in Shillong after leaving Kanpur. So thus our professional relations grew, and whenever necessary, we invited Professor Eminent Karna to give a special lecture in Patna University. He readily agreed and obliged us, and thus we were benefited by his intellectual contribution. So for his professional contribution, it's not much time to dwell upon it, but he was a great student of sociology of movement and an active participant of movements. So he was a practicing sociologist, not only a theoretician, but he practiced sociology. He was also a very good scholar, thus very close to Andre Bete in studying agrarian structure, and he studied the Bihari agrarian structure and tried to underline the semi-feudal threats of the agrarian structure and utter failure of the government in implementing the land reform which continued the age-old semi-feudal structure in Bihar. And later on, he was so much concerned with this problem that after JP movement, he has a ready-made army of Sangharsh Wahini and he used this Sangharsh Vahini against a very successful movement against the Mutt of Bodh Gaya, Mahant of Bodh Gaya, who was the largest landlord in that district, having hundreds of acres of land, and they succeeded in getting the surplus land back from the Mutt and distributed among the poor. So this was the level of commitment of Professor Eminent Karna, not only as a teacher, but also as a social activist. I still remember there is only one. He was born activist. There is only one photograph in the office of Patna University Teacher Association, and that is, I think, that is the photograph of first or second puta. That is the only photograph, collective group photograph. And Professor Eminent Karna figures there as an executive member of the old Patna University Teacher Association. So it shows from very beginning, from day one, he took the role of an activist and interfered anywhere he thought so or demanded the situation. So this way, we remember Professor Eminent Karna as a sociologist of movement, as a sociologist of agrarian race structure, as well as he studied in a regional culture of Meghalaya, because Meghalaya is a different region, and that has to be understood with the specificity of context. That cannot be understood with the general category of or concepts like little tradition, great tradition, and some other concepts used by M.N. Srinivas. So the kind of a specificity of context he highlighted from Meghalaya gave a different insight to study a particular regional culture, and this way he enriched our knowledge in the study of culture as well. Certainly, we wanted to activate the sociological association in Bihar under the leadership of Professor Eminent Karna. We organized a meeting. We elected him as the president, but that was not to be. By the time his health had started deteriorating, and had he not fallen sick, I think we would have by now constituted a very vibrant sociological association in Bihar. But his ill health and ultimately his passing away snatched this opportunity from us to be a vibrant sociological fraternity in Bihar. So his passing away is a great loss, irreparable loss. This cannot be filled. The vacuum cannot be filled. I think I should stop here and pay my respect and regard and homage to great soul, great teacher, great activist, and a human being par excellence. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, just Professor Biswajit Ghosh to share some of his remembrance. Sir, again, I think your audio is not connected. So I request you to please join from mobile phone.
Yes.
So, yes. Now.
Now you can hear me now?
Yes. Very loud.
Okay, fine. I'm not a techno-savvy person, but anyway, like my esteemed colleague, Professor Karna. You see, I have had a great opportunity to meet this esteemed sociologist of India. Way back in 2000, while in the sociological conference at the University of Kerala. I then went there to talk on the ethnicity and insurgents in Tripura, and he happened to be the convener of the RC on social movements. And I didn't know Professor Karna at that point of time. So he was listening to me. Professor Paramjit Singh Jaj was there, and a lot of other people who had worked on social movements there were there. I was just then learning about the way social movements need to be discussed and theorized and so on and so forth, because I came with so much of data from Tripura, as I myself hail from that state. Now, Karna came in and along with Paramjit Singh Jaj and many others, to theorize what I was basically talking about. That was the revealing point for me, because I started learning from his experience of Northeast India. I mean, you all know him for a person from Bihar, but I know him for a person from Northeast India. You ask him about any movements from Northeast, Naga movement, Mizo movement in Tripura, he was well aware of. And in fact, in certain occasions, we started talking about the culture of Meghalaya, which my friend Raghunandan Sharma has correctly said. He's well versed. And I remember in one of the sessions when Professor Satyanarayan of Allahabad University, he talked about peasant movement in Uttar Pradesh. Karna jumped in and started providing some micro sort of inputs about peasant movement in Uttar Pradesh and different parts of Uttar Pradesh, Eastern Uttar Pradesh, that Uttar Pradesh. I didn't know all these details. So then I learned that he's not only an expert on Northeast, he's also an expert on peasant movement. Then, he instituted a system of delivering Dashayi memorial lecture in the RC on social movements. This is something great. We need to remember Dashayi. And I was the first person to talk about Naxalite and Maoist movement. This was the paper that I presented at when he was chairing the session. To my surprise, he knew a lot about Marxist and Naxalite movements, right? So, then we started talking of publication and several other things. Unfortunately, this did not materialize because he told me occasionally that he doesn't like writing. That used to be the culture when many of my teachers, who taught us, they didn't love writing, they loved talking and discussing things. And in fact, there are some great sociologists who did not write, and their students produced a book. Famous sociologist globally. Karna was a person like that who knew a lot and talked about a lot. At the interpersonal level, he used to, encourage scholars, young scholars. When 2000 I went there, I was in 40s, and he was much senior, pretty senior to me. And he started encouraging all of us that, Ghosh, what you are talking is theoretically relevant from this point of view. This was something that probably a learning point. Now, unfortunately, he contested the ISS election as a presidential candidate. He lost. And this is surprising that the ISS culture of electioneering does not promote professionalism. Professor Karna should have been the president of ISS, which Professor T. Coleman of late started talking about the foibles of Indian sociology, and where he started talking about where we failed at the organizational level of promoting professionalism at the ISS level. But then when I was the treasurer of ISS, we discussed his name for the Lifetime Achievement Award, and we gave him the Lifetime Achievement Award, one of the very, reputed award that ISS, Indian Sociological Society, gives. And as my friend Professor Raghunandan Sharma has correctly said, in all sociological conference, if one person goes, it is Professor Eminent Karna. So he was an activist in the field. He was a sociologist. He was a theoretician. He comes with so much of field data, so much of knowledge. He loves discussing about culture, right, about Northeast India. So he's a global sociologist, and it is a great loss for me, for Indian Sociological Society, and for those who study social movements very deeply and minutely. My deep gratitude to Professor Karna and his family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Biswajit. Now I request Professor Anand Kumar to share his. Anand Kumar Giri will invite him later. I request Professor Anand Kumar Giri.
Yes. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Randhir, Professor Anand Kumar, Professor Ghosh, and all respected friends. So remembering Professor M.N. Karn with respected co-travelers who have gifted us their journey with him, their insights about Professor Karna's work, but it also invites us to think about this calling of remembering. Remembering Professor M.N. Karn as a sociologist and as a beautiful human being. With my very limited and humble interaction with Professor Karn, what is alive in my mind is his generosity and his smile. And to put it in a smiling framework, when I was a student of a very interesting socio-religious movement in Western India called Swadhyaya, and I was speaking with people, and there was a very interesting saying about one person. And the person is that this Papat Bhai, जब जाते हैं, हम अभी एक दूसरे को जब मिलते हैं एलर्जी पैदा होता है, मगर पपट भाई जब जाते हैं एनर्जी पैदा होता है. So I think with Professor Karn, his warmth, his smile, and that was a way of being. Therefore, memory, remembering is a calling in which we join in, and that remembering is part of memory work and memory meditation. And it is not just in a sense of the past, as my dear friend Amit was presenting in a very intertwined set of sociological streams. So how do we remember Professor Karn in the midst of these sociological rivers of different thoughts? And our remembering becomes an active work of walking and meditating with present and future. How do we cultivate new ways of sociological engagement? One thing that we can learn from Professor Karn is this deep engagement with social movement and understanding society. The whole category of the activist sociologist or sociological activist, what is that path? So today, in the context of multiple crises that we have, the crisis of institutions and the planetary crisis, we need to cultivate that way of sociological activism. And that sociological activism is a way of sociological imagination, relating it to C. Wright Mills, where life story and history come together. Life story and history come together as a contribution to making alternative futures. So with Professor Karn, we remember his work, his engagement with movements, and to him and to our humble sociological legacy, I wish to offer a poem. And this poem is called Immortality. Immortality, is it after life? Is it only after death? Can we cultivate immortality in the moments of our lives? Can the immortal grow as a co-worker in the journey of our life, working and meditating together for a new awakening? Our creativity, our love for the other, our sacrifice and dedication for beauty, dignity, and dialogue for a new evolution makes us immortal in our everyday life, moments of our being, coping, and becoming. Therefore, the immortal presence that Professor Karn lives with us, with his love of teaching, with his research, his contribution to Indian sociological fraternity. So finally, this remembering again, it's not just remembering about the past, but this remembering becomes an active and creative work of memory and creativity, where we remember Professor Karn as our contributions to making sociology different in India today, making society different in India today. And the first thing to remember is that the whole sociological quest has that dimension of criticality. And today, when there is reign of conformity in many ways, where many kinds of terrors are let loose upon our being, so we must cultivate that active sense of protest and a new imagination, and we keep alive the tradition of Professor Kern and the tradition of sociological activity with our own critical and creative works. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Anand. Now, invite Professor Anand Kumar to share his final thought, and then we'll open vote of chance.
I Chakra for providing us a platform to remember the life journey and work of one of the senior most sociologists of India today, Professor Anand. Personally, his past in 1974, when he came for his work at very strong bond, which was very recently created in the form of going together in the direction of Bihar movement and Youth for Democracy, a call given by Jayaprakash Narayan. I am impressed by the tenacity and the courage of conviction of Professor Karna, because he began his sociological work as a student of Patna University, which was at that time intoxicated by the idea of total revolution and personality of Jayaprakash Narayan. And he concluded, in a way, his engagement with sociology by editing an 8-volume study on Bihar movement, which has been published by the Archaeological Institute of Bihar government. And this brings together, in a very rare and sophisticated and objective manner, three things. One, the personality and making of the mind of Jayaprakash Narayan. Second, the dynamics of social mobilization called Bihar movement. And third, the content of intellectual participation in the form of poetry, posters, slogans, as well as letters from people who suffered the emergency Raj in various jails of India. That single work of editing the details of Bihar movement will create a sense of permanent presence of Professor Karna, because Bihar movement is a very complex chapter of Indian democracy. And Bihar movement was also a journey from darkness to light, from hopelessness to hope, under the leadership of an ever-inspiring non-party person, patriot, nation builder, and human being, Jayaprakash Narayan. As everybody has his or her own memories of Karna, given these long years of sociological partnership, we attended various conferences together. We were active as participants of conferences and seminars, and we shared a dream of engaging as social critics, as social activists with sociological knowledge. We know that people have three lives, three forms of existence. One is the physical self. This body is perishable, and between the age of 70 and 80, 85, this body is going to be exhausted, and physical self will be coming to an end. But the second part of our existence is in the form of our work. And Professor Karna was a diligent researcher and one of the last of that generation of sociologists for whom the whole of India was like their home, the backyard. As it was told by other speakers, he started from Mithila, came to Patna, got guidance from Delhi, then taught at IIT Kanpur, went all the way to Shillong, and he created a mix of various local ideas, processes, institutions to create an understanding of Indian society and culture. And that made him a very special sociologist who could combine the regional patterns and weave a pattern of continuity and change in contemporary India. As it was said, he was inspired by Jayaprakash Narayan, and he was closely associated as a consultant and guide, an elder brother of the famous radical Sarvodaya group called Tarun Chhatri Yuva Sangharsh Vahini. He was a guide and consultant for Bodh Gaya movement, Ganga Bachao movement in Bhagalpur, and many more initiatives. But he was a JPite with a difference. He was not promoting JP's ideas. He was maintaining an objective distance with power structure. Otherwise, he could have used his lineage, his contact, his contribution to move in the corridors of power. Nearest he came to the establishment was the director of ANC Institute, and he led it with judiciousness. So the second part of his existence as a researcher, as somebody who contributed to the accumulation of knowledge, will have a longer life. And the third part of our existence is in terms of our vision and ideas. He was a confident, patriotic Indian who thought that India has a better tomorrow. He was a proud Bihari who believed that Bihar is going through a self-interrogation and will come out of various problems of Bihar society and economy and polity that avoided his being depressed by some of the failures of our generation of politicians, academicians, and administrators. Finally, he was also an optimist Indian. I found him always looking for the future, which is a great quality of any intellectual, particularly a social scientist. Friends, we thank you all for joining us in remembering the life and work of Professor Mahendranath Karna, and we hope that this will encourage us to write down some of the memories of Professor Karna, the way we knew him, the way he helped us, enlightened us, showed us the path of being a good sociologist. And it will be always one of the role models for us to be a concerned sociologist, not necessarily a campaigning sociologist, but always a person with courage of conviction. You'll be missed, Karna Sahab, and we pay our collective tribute to your work and your life. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
I request Military Pradhan ji to offer a vote of thanks.
Hello. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. I, Minati Pradhan, on behalf of Socialism and Vishwaneedam Center.
Hello,
for-
Minati, please put your video on. Friends can meet you, please.
1 minute. Namaste, everyone. On behalf of Sadhyasa Chakra and Vishwaneedam Center for Essay and Reasoning, I, Minati Pradhan, would like to thank our, we are glad to have in our session today, Professor Anand Kumar. Thank you so much, sir, for a very insightful life of women Karna. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank the other panelists of today's discussion, Professor Nawal Kishor Chaudhary, Professor Amit Kumar Sharma, Dr. Suresh Khamia, Professor Arun Sharma, Professor Biswajit Ghosh, and other dignitaries who were present in our webinar today. Thank you all. I would like to thank our moderator and mentor, Professor Anand Kumar Giri, for providing us this platform to learn every week. Thank you, Ananta bhai. And I would like to thank all our Facebook platform user and Zoom platform user for being present with us and learning. Please pardon me if I've forgotten anybody's name. I really thank everyone from bottom of my heart. And the last, as always, I would like to thank our convener, Professor Randhir Kumar Gautam, for arranging and executing these webinars so well. Thank you all. Probably another session we can have little more question answers because I had some doubts, but as there is paucity of time, we cannot. So thank you all.